All right, Jeff, our first podcast there took us about a year to come up with this podcast, right?
We've been working on this nonstop.
So the first guest, we got Weston Kirk here, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the big wig at EXP. Is that correct? Welcome.
I'll take it. Yeah. I'll run with that.
Yeah.
Weston, he does quite a bit of podcasting himself as well. I've been on his.
Yeah. And I will say I appreciate that y'all had me, because there's a lot of people that we have on, and we'll even share our editor with them, our video guy, and they'll go on and do their own. And then I'm like, when are they going to have me on? Like,
this time you're the first one.
I appreciate it, man. It's fun.
We want to
be
follow
here.
the expert. So
yeah, and back in I think it was about a year ago, just about, we did ours here with me, Sean, and Jeff, and just threw Jeff into some spicy topics, which I'll let y'all pick the topics today. But
we'll choose the topics for this one.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Those got a little wilder. Those are out of our expertise.
So the first topic that I want to talk to you guys about is, so we're self-employed, or you're self-employed. I've owned my business in the past. Jeff started Town Square, right? A lot of people are saying how awesome it is to be self-employed and to own your business. But many people don't know the amount of hard work it takes to be successful, right? So Weston, I wanted to start with you here. Like, you started in real estate a while back. You're self-employed. You have your own business. I mean, tell us a little bit the ups and downs. Be real. We want to hear not just the good stuff, right? We want to hear also all the, we learn how to get better when you fail, right?
Of course.
And probably you've had some of those things happen. I've had it. Jeff has had it. So let's talk about it. I think everyone wants to hear that.
Well, lucky for you, there's definitely more failures than things that have worked out. So we've got a lot to talk about there. So yeah, essentially I got into the real estate industry when I was in college at Texas State University. Okay. I worked a lot of jobs throughout college. Once my parents decided to cut me off, and, I was like, well, we got to get money somehow. So I was working at, furniture moving companies, and that was horrible. I'm going to try to speed run through this because I don't want to get bogged down in the details. But one thing that my parents kind of always taught me was, you may hate this job that you're working right now, but when you're young and you're doing these things, you're going to find out real quick, as long as you continue to work, what you don't like. And that's going to have a huge imprint on your future. And at the time, I always thought that was some BS. I was like, man, it's,
So you're saying
so
really your first job doesn't mean that's the job.
God. I think that for your first job, I was 15 applying at Taco Bell. I just wanted to get paid, dude. I was like,
I was at Dairy Queen, by the way.
No one hired me.
I was 14.
No one hired me back in the day when I was in high school. I'm from a small town, and you had to, it wasn't cool to have those jobs, and you had to fight for them, so there's a balance. But essentially, I think when I was in college, and my first job was working at a pizza delivery place, which wasn't flashy. It wasn't cool. Girls didn't love that, it wasn't and,
free pizza.
Yeah. And minimum wage, but I killed it on tips. And then I was like, that's pretty cool. So you start to kind of highlight the things that you appreciate about the job, and then you obviously highlight the things you don't like. Long story short, I got into working at Little Guys Movers, which is a moving company, and made really good money for being in college, and I was like, this is great money wise, because I'm not hurting. There's nothing worse to me than being broke. It's the worst thing in the world. Don't do it.
I know.
So, but one thing I was thinking is I'd love to be in a job that has AC, cause I'm just in the summer sun, sweating my butt off every day. And,
degrees.
I went from making better money to then being in air conditioning, and then having, less freedom with what I did. I was working at a leasing office in San Marcos, but they paid me horribly. So I was essentially making minimum wage, and they paid me $20 per lease that I signed at this leasing complex.
And you had to go into the office
every day, every weekend. Yeah. And then, all the hot girls at Texas State would come in and complain, be like, your management sucks. I'm like, I know. Tell me about it.
Just agreeing. Yeah.
Just agree with them.
So I remember what happened. I kind of got the bug when I was working there. My cousin Zach works at, he does commercial real estate in San Marcos, New Braunfels. And we would just kind of brainstorm all the time. And I remember, again, I was getting minimum wage plus $20 per lease I signed. And then he was still doing a little residential, and I'm seeing kind of how much he's making, the freedom with his time. And he just seemed a lot happier than I was. And I started reading all these books on, Elon Musk. And that's when Gary Vee kind of blew up. And I was like, this guy's in college. Like, this guy's sick, I was watching all these people. And I was like, I want to go this route, So I remember what triggered me was one day, this is kind of like when everything kind of changed in my mind, was I was working in the office. No one's coming in. And it was kind of the first thing I kind of did for myself. I was like reading books. I never read. I was always partying or doing stuff that wasn't contributing to my future. I never took school seriously.
Never done that, by the way.
Yeah. And I was at this point, where I was like, I can do one of two things. I'm in college. I didn't, I partied and stuff, but I didn't make the best connections. I didn't have the best reputation. I didn't position myself to like excel in a corporate world. Right. I always found myself like, if I leave college and I go into the corporate world, I'm going to be playing catch up.
So would you say that you're more of, you need the freedom to be successful?
Absolutely. Money is not like, I hate being broke, but like money doesn't do much for me. But like freedom is the thing.
But some people, they need structure, right? They need to go into the office. They need someone to tell them what to do. Like in your job, it's really, you're on your own. You got to motivate yourself. You got to make sure that you're executing all the tasks, right?
For sure.
When you are like self-employed, then it's harder to maybe be structured.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So when did you feel like, hey, I don't need that structure. I can be by myself and still do a good job?
That's a great question.
That is a great question. So I didn't think of it like that, to be honest with you, when it first started. Like, structure never crossed my mind. Probably should have. Yeah. But I just remember I was, again, kind of doing something that I felt was good for myself, reading books, getting licensed in real estate. Yeah. And my boss at the time at that leasing office came in and no one's coming in the office, right? And she's like yelling at me for reading. I remember one time I laughed, no one's in there, and she's like, stop. And I remember I went into her office, I go, oh, like, I can't laugh, then I'm out of here. Like, if this is going to be some kind of dictatorship thing, what happened is I just took big risks, I guess. And I learned that the hard way, what you're asking, right? So I left the structure that I didn't think I needed. And I was like, now I have no income and my parents have 100% cut me off. Okay. And I have bills to pay. And I'm unemployed. So I essentially killing it. Yeah. Just living the dream, So I remember I had like, it was getting bad. It's getting really bad. Right. I had a, long story short, I had a 5-bed, 5-bath townhome to myself at this place. I had finessed when I worked there at a like cheap rate. So in my living room, it was funny because I was supposed to keep this like showing ready for tours, but I had no money. So I pick up all of this stuff on Craigslist for free. Like, I'm talking like drill bits that are 5 feet tall that go on tractors and like fifth wheels and like all this like industrial equipment. And I would have in this college complex, I had random people coming in, driving up, picking up stuff, and I'd pick it up for free on Craigslist and sell it on Facebook. That's how I paid my rent, and I'm still, structure never crossed my mind. Okay. Structure crossed my mind when a month of doing that came in. I got incredibly lucky, and it's kind of because of how I vetted the people I'm working with. Because I worked at the leasing office, I knew the right questions to ask on how I'm going to get paid and make money in this business. So I did prepare myself well there. But 1 month in, I sell a $400,000 house, and this is in 2018, and that's like expensive back then. Right. Like it's appreciated a lot. That's probably $700-800 now, And I was like, this is easy. And I go to the square in San Marcos, buying everyone drinks. I'm going hard. Like, let's go. This is easy. I'll just go print.
You're about to do this all the time.
I'll just go print some more money tomorrow. What are we doing tonight? So it kind of came from like, I noticed there was some skill, and then I took advantage of the position that I risked myself and worked hard to put myself in. I kind of took advantage of that. And then, I'll fast forward a ton so I don't waste too much time, but it's like, man, I just kind of like made good money for a young age, went broke. The girl I was with kind of left, and like all the friends I was with, I didn't take anything seriously, and I just ruined a lot of relationships. And then I'm like, okay, I should take things seriously. And then structure kind of was like something that fell in later. So would you say that,
they always say that you don't work as hard if you have a parachute. If you have for instance, the parents are always there paying for you.
100%.
Or if you, you always have a plan B. It sounds like you went all in, and then you had to make it happen to go further in your business, right?
100%.
Do you think it would have been a different story if your parents would have still supported you and paid for everything? Would you not have the same urgency to get to the next level?
I think that I think at some point, like I do feel like I'm meant to be doing exactly what I'm doing. You know, I think that there's no circumstance that could have came along that says you're not going to be where you are now. I think that I would have just gravitated to where I'm at. Like, honestly, I do think that for people that may find themselves in that situation, I think they might be they may have been bitten by the bug and they may not be in the right field and they think they want to be in this field, but like everyone has a role to play in society. You know, I've been, since I was in first grade, lemonade stands, and I remember I was like making like pillowcases out of book covers and selling them for 50 cents in class. Like I you know, how much can we talk? Can we go real? Can we be real? You know, my first sales job was I sold weed.
Okay.
That was my first sales job.
Okay. That's fair.
Killed it.
Yeah.
Got robbed, killed it. We can go into it if you want to. But
good.
I mean, I remember back then I was like, I treated it like a business. That was in college. That was after, that was before the leasing office. Yeah.
So for me, it was like, so for me to get like to the next level, and when I left Sweden, right, to go and play tennis in Germany or go to college, right? In Sweden, I always had my parents. It was always like a backup. I knew that they were there if something wouldn't go well, right?
Right.
Then I came here, I was on my own, and tennis didn't go as well in college. School was so-and-so. And then one day I got this, my tennis coach just gave me a little Jesus talk. He was like, hey, you came here, step it up, be an adult, blah, blah, blah. I'm sending you back to Sweden, all that. And it just triggered something. And then from that point, it just changed the way I think, the way I do things. And I think if you take that parachute out where you don't have always someone to lean back on, then you go further.
Yeah. Well, you're 100% right, because what I would say is that I think that if the parachute would have been removed a lot sooner, then I would probably be in a better position.
Okay, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think we all have it in us. Like, it's in our DNA to be where you're at, right? What you're saying, like you're going to get to where you're going to be based on your abilities. But what happens is, and I think that if you have parents that are always supporting you forever, it does kind of pull you back, because you're not going to push as hard because you know you're good. But I think as time goes on, the longer that parachute is there, the longer it takes you to get to where you're going, right? Because you have to fail. You have to be like, you have to have that come to Jesus call like his coach had with him. Sometimes you got to have it with yourself, right? You're having it with yourself, and you're just like, all right, I got to do something. This has got to change.
The reality is say, we'll use the parents paying your bills example, right? If your parents are paying for, let's say, rent and maybe, I don't know, cell phone, a couple of the bills, and then your responsibility is like, I've got to go make fun money and do this. Yeah. Well, you're just going to go make the fun money and do this. They remove everything else. You're like, okay, well, now I've got to pay everything. That's stressful.
And you figure out a way.
And it's not just like, what do I want to go pay for? It's like, I've got to pay for these things. I don't know what the future looks like, so I got to stack it up now. Like, there's so much more urgency involved, you know.
And that's what I see. Like, when I talk to people that own their own business, I hear the story more that you have. It's like, hey, I had to survive. I had to do this to go to the next level. It's not that I hear that, hey, my dad gave me all of this, or my mom, and then they created a business from there. I hear the story of, hey, it was survival, and that's why I am successful today.
For sure.
And that's where I feel like there is that. I think, like Jeff says, everyone can do it, but do you have your own accountability to get there, right? Yeah. And I feel like that's the difference.
Yeah, you got to get to that dark place. You know, you got to have that talk, that inner talk. You know, sometimes it's an external talk that someone gives you that makes you go have that internal talk a little faster, right? You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And that's what I really appreciate about you, is you are a straight shooter, and will be like, there's no filter with him. Yeah. It's like, we'll be vibing and getting along, and then like, hey, what do you think of this? Criticize. And it's not like out of a bad place. You're like, this is just something that I see that you should fix. Right. And there's no like, you don't think less of anyone for it. You don't, it doesn't change your perception of someone.
I probably don't say that to everybody. I probably don't go to everybody and tell them what's real all the time. Right. I mean, we all do that, right? To a certain extent. But when you really care about someone and you know how that they are, and like just with everybody, he's real with me. I get real with him.
Yeah, I think that's the only way.
You know what? That's because of how close we are. I get real with you because I know, hey, that's, I know where I was, and I wish someone would have been real with me.
100%.
It doesn't mean you're going to take everybody's advice and change everything, but you at least see what other people are seeing.
Yeah. So that's the next topic is like, how much does the people that you surround yourself with help with your business?
Oh, it's everything.
Right?
It's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it is literally the most important thing to me.
And you can go back probably to when you were younger and you realize, hey, if I wouldn't have been around these people, maybe my life would have been a little bit different. But again, you would have not been where you are today if you wouldn't have experienced it, right?
100%.
Yeah. So I had the same situation. I was around bad people, and I learned that that's not the way to do things. And then I met Jeff back in 2001,
Yeah.
and his crew, and the tennis community is very solid too. So I do believe that knowing and surrounding yourself with the right people will help you further in business too.
Right. And
100%. I think, and I'd go a step further and say that if you're not surrounding yourself with the right people, then you'll be gone in no time. I mean, whoever you surround yourself with is everything. It is literally the most.
We saw a stat the other day on this, right? We were with Jake, he was talking about that.
Yeah.
Remember there was a stat, like, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was very interesting that, that it was something to do with, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, no. It was, he said that you want to surround yourself with the positive people, right? That have the same drive as you, that you're really taking out all the negative and it's all positive and you're just moving forward, right?
It was real good. I'll have to dig that up, but it was a really good stat. I mean, he brought a lot of stuff to like, wow, okay, yeah, that's so true.
So the next topic around, people then is, do you want to be around people that always tell you, hey, how incredible you are, how good you are, or do you want the truth where it hurts a little bit? And you're like, you know what, that's something I didn't think about, because I feel like many times people are too afraid to say the truth. Tell me the truth, right? And then I can change. But if you're only giving me the positive and the positive, right? I don't know what to change within me.
But you got to be willing to know who you're talking to, because sometimes if you tell people the truth, they just can't handle it. They just can't handle it. And you're going to ruin a relationship that maybe you have a good relationship. Maybe it's not as deep, but you still have a good relationship. I always look at it like I have depth, different depths of relationships with different people. And the ones that are deeper is the ones that we're more real with.
So how would you guys approach someone, let's say that's very sensitive to that information? How would you approach someone?
I'll let you go first, Weston.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you just
if we're just being honest,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be around him.
Okay.
I mean, I can't be around that. Like we're just not going to get along. I don't have that filter. I'm not saying I'm out going to just like criticize people nonstop. I don't even feel like I criticize people much, to be honest with you. It's just that I do feel like I make myself a bit vulnerable, and I'm very like upfront and candid most of the time. And if you can't handle that, like I don't want to waste the time.
It's a little bit like me.
It defeats, like, that's part of the point of life to me, is to be around people and just be honest, be candid, and you learn from each other's experiences. And that's what life's about.
I see it different. I just try to see the good in people, and sometimes they may not have that depth, but you can still get a good feeling and be around them. I mean, obviously there's certain people that take themselves very, very serious that I can't be around long periods of time. It's like, okay, I get little snippets of them, and hey, it's cool to be around them. And then I'm out. But I don't know. I kind of try to see the good in everybody, even when it may not be deep. It just may, because there's good in everybody. Really, I always feel that.
I guess I'm not saying not to see like I still try to see good in people. Like, there's still good aspects to people like that, but it's, the good analogy to me would be, there are lenders out there that when you get them on the phone with your client, they're going to tell the client everything they want to hear. They're going to make up these programs that kind of don't really, it's not an incentive. They frame it as an incentive, and they're selling. Like, I get Jeff or you on the phone, y'all shoot people straight. We get the deal done faster, and it's to the point, and they're like, the service is good. And you can still offer everything they offer, but it's I don't know.
So this is why I'm talking about this. Is it's really all about owning a business, right? You deal with people all the time. You need to know how to approach it. You're going to have your ups and downs. How do you handle it, right? So all of this is part of being a self-employed person, right? And staying motivated and navigating through all the people that you're going through life, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, in real estate, you're meeting people all the time, right? And you know, how would you say your best approach is? Do you listen to the people first and then like try to adjust to them, or do you like to be your own style so they, you know, hey, this is my style, this is how I do business? What would you say your strength is in that?
I would say I originally started off listening to people, and I still do. I'm not saying that I totally throw everything out. Like there's aspects of option one that I still hold with me. So I do adapt to the person, you know, on at least style of communication. But at first I would just cater fully to them. And then I always had this anxiety that's like, the more, what I realize is in real estate or in any business, it's all about relationships, and not the relationship to get the deal done, but longevity in relationships. Exactly. So when I'm catering to someone up front and fully just trying to be what they want me to be, there's this like deep anxiety that I get that's like, they're going to find out who I really am. And they're not going to like me, you know?
Yeah.
So I just now I'm very candid with people. I'm very to the point, but again, I understand kind of how receptive they are to certain conversations. And I try to accommodate my communication style with them. Yeah. But you know,
but I think like if you get that out immediately, they see who you are, you're not wasting someone's time a lot, right? Versus I think people want to see up front, who am I dealing with, who's the true person, so it's not something fake. I mean,
another thing too is that a lot of the things that I feared people wouldn't like me for, like I'd spend a lot of time like I'm not perfect in these areas, and they're gonna find out, and they're gonna like,
I'm a fraud.
They're gonna not respect me, or they're gonna, you know, whatever. But a lot of those things I was scared of them finding out. What I realized is like when I was just upfront and like, this is who I am, let's, you know, it's like they almost respect it more. And then you get that freedom to kind of be yourself, and it saves time. Yeah. It saves a lot of time.
I can only imagine. I mean, that would be the way to, you know, I know you personally, and I know like whenever I try to tell people, okay, who's Weston? What's he all about? It's like, he's very himself. I mean, like this guy, like, well, I mean,
what do you say to that? That's a good,
I'd say you're more edgy, but when I say edgy, like,
no, I think you're to the point.
You're just,
you're
but
yourself.
I mean, you still like, you're not cautious. You go like, and it doesn't matter. And I would say that there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, and if you can present yourself in a way that people see what you bring to the table, then if they can see that, then it doesn't matter. As soon as they see that, they're like, okay, I get it. Like, I want to work with this guy.
This is something awesome. I feel like I learned from Kanye is like, wow, he says some wild stuff.
Right.
Why do people still like him?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Are you going to not like him because he said one thing when he made a decade of music you listen to every day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's his track record? You know what I mean? And like, look, people can not like you all they want, but if they need you, they need you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah. No, that's good.
I mean, we're running into the same, right? It's, we talk to so many different people. We got to just listen. And, I think I'm taking more of an approach, listen first and then see how the person are, if they want the straight on information, or if they want more of an evaluation around how a lender thinks. And
for sure.
Versus someone that, you know, sometimes you work with a person that just, hey, I don't have time. I need information. That's all I'm looking for. You just give them exactly what they want, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the people that want to take the time and evaluate everything, where you have to give them the whole background of how a lender thinks and why we're asking for these items, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of different styles with the people that you're working with. You know, and you learn that over time. You learn how to communicate with people, and it doesn't take you long. I mean, if everybody here is good at what they do. And so we can see that really quickly, but you know, it's such a art that, you know, I do see some people are just a certain personality and they're that way all the time. But when I get on the phone, I just kind of like, hear who I'm talking to, and then I try to be friends with them, you know, like just get to know that person and like try to put myself in their shoes.
You have friends?
Not many, but I would say that
if you've been out with this guy, everyone in Frisco, I'm like, Jeff. I skipped a line the other day. I was like, yo, I know Jeff. You should have told me sooner. I
didn't know that.
But I mean, I just think that it's just it's definitely you know, I feel that's something that I've learned so much. You know, if I go back to where I started and where I am now, it's like totally different person, right? You know, I've learned and grown up and made. Everything I do is by mistake, right? You literally screw up and you're like, gosh, we should have done it this way. Think about it. Next time you try to apply that new thing, you know, whatever that is, into the conversation. So I think that's a big one. I think, you know, what I would love for us to talk about today is, you know, we came out of COVID, right? You know, this whole industry and us getting started as a business. And I know as a business, when we got started, you know, we came out of the foreclosures in 2008. You know, it was mortgage industry was crashing and burning, and you know, now we came into COVID, which then all of a sudden everybody thought we're going to crash and burn, and instead it went the other way. Right? Everything just took off like wildfire, and now we're feeling the effects of that. And I feel like actually lately, you know, and you guys can expand on it, but we're coming out of that hole, if you will, and things are starting to get back to quote unquote normal, whatever.
The seasonality.
The seasonality.
It's
we
coming
didn't even
back.
Know that. So I want to get like where you are. What do you see in the market? What's going on in your world? I mean, I feel like I know what's going on in your world, and you're actually getting busier and busier all the time and getting better at what you do. So
that's a good question to me, because I have clients ask me, and I actually hate this question. People ask me, I really, not the question you asked, but the question that clients ask me is, how's the market doing?
Right.
And like, you asking me, like, great. It's great. Like, I love it, you know, because year over year I get better and better, but that's the goal. That's my intention. It's like everything external a lot of the time to me is just a distraction. It's all a distraction. Right. Well, rates are going up. I'll give you like a perfect example. I closed the biggest deal I've ever closed in my life about a little under a year ago. Right. As soon as I closed that, market is like, rates are going up. Everyone's saying, well, no one's going to buy because it's a bad time. Right. And buyers I'm talking to, I'm getting leads from Zillow, Ojo, all these buyer leads from the internet that I'm like, okay, well, if this is true, people are going to be, if they're online finding me, right? Like on Zillow or Ojo to come to me to do business, they're also online listening to everyone and their opinion on what the market's going to do. Right. So they're going to be coming in with all these preconceived notions and I can't afford to go X amount of months or whatever without getting paid. Right. Yeah. So in my mind, I was like, well, what's going to be like, I'm not going to go get a part-time job. I'm never going to switch what I'm doing. Like, how do I stay afloat? I'm going to just go get rentals done. Like, and again, mind you, I think a lot of people lack the humility to go close a 142 acre transaction and then go switch over to doing rental properties. Yeah. Right. So and not only just doing rental properties, I'm finding these by doing cold calls. I'm calling landlords and saying, and everyone's telling me to F off. Like it's you know, and think about it, right? Like you're getting told on the phone all day, you suck, stop calling me, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. And then doing the podcast stuff, you check your phone and then people are like, you're making the world worse. Like there's all these negative comments and all that stuff. So like your whole day is like, wow, I suck. So it's like, but what happened is from those cold calls, I get a, $6,500 a month rental listing in Frisco, and then another one, $6,500 a month. And then they give me some referrals. And then my mindset was, if I spend time on the phone with these people, they're investors, they own multiple properties and they got friends with money. Right. That's literally like, and so I to get back to like what the market's doing, this and that, that's where I really adapt. It's like, I don't care what the market's doing. We all need a place to live. Yeah. How are you going to get it? Answer. Are you going to rent it? Are you going to buy it? Are you going to lease? You know what I mean? Like, you need land? You want to build? Every situation is different, right? And that's what I love about being a realtor is you're so versatile. When I sold cars, you're selling a car. If it's a depreciating asset, it's a depreciating asset. I'm not selling classics. Right. I'm selling Jeeps. Yeah. So it's like, if it's a bad time to buy a car, it's a bad time to buy a car. Yeah. But if it's a bad time to buy a house, I can still go make good commission on leasing a house. Well, or the one other thing I want to say real quick is that the biggest difference I notice in cars and everything else you sell other than insurance and real estate is that you also have, if it's a bad time to buy on a mortgage, it's usually a good time to buy with cash.
Okay. But so that perfect segue. So, define a bad time to buy a mortgage. This topic came up the other day and I heard some really good answers.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear what your answer is. When is a bad time to buy a house? I tried to, someone asked that question. I really had to go deep on that thought and said, when do you not buy a house? Like that's,
I would say that there's one thing that concerns me about it, and there's only one. Okay. And it is that for people like myself, first time buyers, or you know what I mean? Like people that are just young, getting into buying a house, I do think affordability can be an issue.
Right. I agree with that.
But you have way more people that can afford it that are not buying, and that is stupid to me. That is just dumb. Because
there's really, truly, besides that, there's not a bad time to buy a house, right? Because I'll go back to, you see that chart from 1950 till today, it's a 45-degree angle up on the cost of a house. What does that mean?
It depends how long you're holding your house.
Right? That's true. That's true.
But that's in your control. But that's in your control, right? Like you can decide that.
Now there's always things that can happen. You have to move because of relocation or whatever.
But if I'm going to buy something knowing I'm going to move in 2 years, I probably shouldn't buy a house. Right?
Yeah,
right.
That is a time that I don't buy a house.
I think you got to look at your time frame, and statistically it showed if you own a house for what is it, 5 years, you're going to make money.
You're going to make money.
Yeah. Well, it's the same analogy, right? Like, is it a bad time to buy the S&P 500 because it's more expensive than it was 2 years ago?
Yeah, no.
Exactly. Right. It's the same thing.
It's the same. The longer you hold it, right, the better you're going to be off. So that's what I try to tell people too, is like, yes, I mean, could you have bought it a little cheaper? But then if you look forward, I mean, I did this error myself. I was looking to buy a house back in 2018. My wife's dad passed away. We decided to hold off. The same house in 2018, right? I thought the market would come down. The same house is now worth like $700,000, right? And just by me sitting there and saying it's not a perfect time, I think it's going to go down, I missed $300,000 in equity, right?
Right.
And even painful. The market had been going up since 2011, right? We had a few dips, right? Up and down.
There's been a few dips over that time, but very, very small amount of time.
But so look where we are now in 2023, right? Those homes are way more than what they were previous year, right? Even if you have that market corrections and if you stay in it, you're still going to make money. It's going to come back.
And I would say this, that we're in DFW here. Everybody in here is working in the DFW area, and that it's a different market. You know, you sent me a snippet on that today, and it's just such a different market here, a different world. But I mean, there could be areas in the U.S. to where they may have a dip in price. And if they do, if you buy right before that dip, then it was a bad time to buy. But to predict the future, like who in here can predict against what is going to happen in the future? Because if we could do that, none of us would be here.
So one thing that was interesting in that article that I never thought about. So a lot of other big cities, right? They have mountains, they have rivers, they have things like that, right? And which makes it harder for the to expand, right? We have a lot of land where farmland are flat, so
flat,
we can
goes on forever.
So we can keep building and keep growing, right? And that's why the affordability is here still, is because it's cheaper to build here than probably in many areas because of that reason. So
I think that's one of the big ones as well. So affordability is starting to become a problem even here to a certain degree, but as you go out further and further out, it becomes more and more affordable. But to be in the city, in DFW in the city now, more in Dallas area especially, I don't know as much as Fort Worth, but it gets very expensive here. So I think that's going to be a problem in the future. But I always say, like, people live in New York, people live in LA, and somehow they still make it, even those crazy prices. So I mean, we're gonna probably, I don't know about past them as far as cost, but as far as affordability, we're catching them.
Yeah.
The lack of affordability.
I mean, we're growing as a city, so we're becoming one of these big cities now, like Chicago, or aren't we going to overtake Chicago here in 2030?
By 2030 we'll take them, and we'll be number 3.
Yeah.
And then they said, was it 2100, which I won't be around for that in 2100, but we're going to be
you're 32, right?
Yeah, I think
I'm
you
only
will
32.
be here.
That is true.
Yeah. Keep going to the gym. I think you'll be around.
I'm going negative. I'm going backwards on the age. But it'll be the biggest metropolitan area in the U.S. in 2100, the DFW area, which is just crazy to hear that, but I could see it. I mean, there's enough space here to do it. So
yeah. All right. Do we have any other good
hot topics?
Any other hot topics?
Hot topics?
Yeah. Listen,
Weston, we don't want to know what other hot topics.
I think we did a good. We covered a lot of good topics like self-employed, the ups and downs,
Right.
no parachute, learn to be around the right people, right? And then building a network, right?
Mm-hmm.
Building a network and
Hugely important.
Yeah. And so, any other things you guys have?
I think we did it here.
Yeah.
I think we nailed it. I think we nailed it.
Hey, for the first podcast, we did pretty good.
I felt like we definitly nailed it, no doubt. I'm glad Weston was here because Weston's really good. He's a pro, and we needed him to come on here and make sure we had a little backup in case we started crashing and burning, which could have happened real easy.
So we appreciate you coming, Weston.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.
I
Look forward to doing it again. All right,
let's do it.
All right, y'all. That was fun. We had a good time here with Weston. So all you guys out there, just subscribe. Let's let's share. What else is there? Is there love? Is there like a love one?
Is there love? I don't know. No.
I don't know.
Is that on Bumble?
Whatever there is, it's positive.
Yeah.
Subscribe. We want you to subscribe to us, and we want you to be a part of our family.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.